Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. If you're passionate about marine engineering, ship machinery, and real engine room troubleshooting, you're in the right place. Today we are going to understand one of the most common problems in marine diesel engines, black smoke. We'll discuss the engineering theory behind it, relate it to practical engine room situations, and finally understand why this issue is becoming increasingly important under IMO environmental regulations. What does black smoke actually mean, guys? When we see black smoke coming from a marine diesel engine, many people immediately think that something is broken. But from an engineering perspective, black smoke is not the fault itself, it is the symptom. Black smoke is mainly made up of soot particles, also known as black carbon. These particles are formed whenever diesel fuel does not burn completely inside the combustion chamber. This happens because the combustion process is no longer balanced. Every diesel engine depends on three essential conditions for complete combustion. First, the engine must receive the correct quantity of fuel. Second, sufficient clean air must be available. Third, the fuel must be injected at the correct pressure and exactly at the correct crank angle. If even one of these conditions changes, combustion efficiency decreases. The unburned fuel becomes carbon particles, and those particles leave the exhaust as black smoke. So, black smoke is actually visible evidence of incomplete combustion and wasted energy. In marine engineering, we never replace parts simply because we see smoke. Instead, we ask one simple question: why is the engine asking for more fuel than it can burn? That single question changes the entire troubleshooting process. Professional marine engineers don't guess. They investigate. A practical engine room situation. Let me take you into a real engine room scenario. Imagine your vessel has just departed from port. The engine load gradually increases from 50% to 85%. A few minutes later, the second engineer notices heavy black smoke from the funnel. The first reaction of an inexperienced engineer may be to blame the fuel injectors. But an experienced marine engineer begins by looking at the entire system. He checks the propeller load. He checks the turbocharger speed. He observes the exhaust temperatures. He checks the fuel rack movement. He verifies the governor response. He examines the injection timing. The troubleshooting chart in front of us follows exactly this engineering philosophy. Sometimes the problem isn't inside the engine at all. Suppose the vessel has a heavily fouled propeller. Marine growth increases the resistance of the ship. The engine now has to produce much more torque to maintain the same speed. The governor senses the reduction in RPM and immediately increases fuel delivery. However, the amount of air entering the cylinders cannot increase instantly. Now the cylinders receive more fuel than available oxygen can burn. The result is incomplete combustion and black smoke. The engine is healthy. The real problem is excessive load. This is why we always check the driven machine before dismantling the engine. Fuel quality matters. Fuel quality is another important factor. Poor quality fuel, contaminated fuel, or fuel with poor ignition characteristics does not atomize properly. Instead of producing a fine spray, it forms large droplets. Large droplets evaporate slowly and cannot mix completely with air before ignition. Part of the fuel burns. The remaining fuel leaves as soot. This is why proper fuel treatment, purification, heating, and filtration are essential on every ship. Okay, now let's talk about the heart of diesel combustion, the fuel injection system. Injection timing is one of the most critical adjustments in any marine diesel engine. If fuel is injected too early, combustion begins before the piston reaches top dead center. If fuel is injected too late, combustion continues while the piston is already moving downward. Both situations reduce combustion efficiency. Similarly, if the injection pump delivers excessive fuel, the combustion chamber simply cannot burn everything. The excess fuel becomes black smoke. Sometimes each cylinder doesn't receive the same amount of fuel. One cylinder may overfuel while another underfuels. The engine starts running unevenly. Exhaust temperatures become different between cylinders. Fuel consumption increases, smoke becomes heavier. That is why fuel pumps and injectors must always be calibrated accurately after overhaul. Let's talk about the governor's hidden role. The governor is often overlooked. Its job is to maintain constant engine speed. But if the governor linkage becomes worn, sticks, or is adjusted incorrectly, it can demand more fuel than the engine actually needs. The engine responds with overfueling. And once again, black smoke appears. Sometimes the governor isn't causing the problem directly, but it's simply reacting to another fault somewhere else in the system. Understanding this relationship is what makes troubleshooting logical instead of random. One engineering principle explains almost every black smoke problem. Whenever the fuel-to-air ratio becomes richer than the engine can burn efficiently, incomplete combustion occurs. That imbalance may be caused by excessive fuel or insufficient air, poor atomization, incorrect injection timing. Different faults but same result. Black smoke. Okay, then we talk how to connect with IMO regulations and carbon emissions. Now let's look beyond the engine room. Today, marine engineers are not only responsible for keeping engines running, we are also responsible for protecting the marine environment. The International Maritime Organization regulates air pollution from ships through MARPOL Annex 6. This convention covers limits on air pollutants such as nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, and also introduces measures to improve the carbon intensity and energy efficiency of ships. Black smoke contains black carbon, which is produced during incomplete combustion. Because black carbon contributes to climate warming, especially in sensitive regions like the Arctic, the IMO has adopted guidance on measuring, monitoring, and reducing these emissions. Think about it this way. If your engine burns fuel efficiently, almost all of the fuel is converted into useful power. If your engine produces black smoke, part of that fuel becomes soot instead of power. That means higher fuel consumption, higher operating costs, higher co-emissions for every mile the ship sails. So reducing black smoke is not only good engineering practice, it is also part of operating an environmentally responsible and energy-efficient ship. Every time you see black smoke from a marine diesel engine, don't just look at the funnel. Think about what's happening inside the cylinder. A skilled marine engineer doesn't chase the smoke. They understand the combustion process that created it. Remember this simple engineering principle. A diesel engine doesn't produce power by injecting more fuel. It produces power by burning the correct amount of fuel completely. That's the difference between an engine that performs efficiently and one that wastes fuel, increases emissions, and shortens its own life. If you enjoyed this tutorial and want more real marine engineering lessons, practical troubleshooting techniques, engine overhauls, and shipboard maintenance videos, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our growing community of marine engineers around the world. Until the next video, stay safe, keep learning, and remember, every great marine engineer solves problems with knowledge before reaching for the toolbox. Thank you for watching.